Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night from anywhere in the world that you're joining us. Thank you for being here. Welcome. My name is Caroline. I'm VP of Enterprise with Ducere Global Business School. For those of you who are not familiar with Ducere and joining us today, we design and deliver the world's most industry applied MBA and BAs, so bachelor's and master's, that focus on advancing students' career while overcoming barriers such as time, cost, and entry criteria. So we're here for individuals' career advancement. Today is all about practical strategies for building a real influence in C-suite. We're lucky to have Christine Outram with us, who's not only done it, but has built and sold companies, raised millions, and earned global recognition for her innovation. I want to give a couple of minutes, I know people are still joining us. Christine, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being here with us.
Of course. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. One more day. We are almost there.
Exactly. Yeah, I love it.
Okay, I also want to mention while we're waiting that we're very proud that because these series of webinars are specifically in honor of Women's History Month. And we don't just, talk about it during the month. We actually, at Ducere, I'm very proud that we actually implement and practice, what we preach. So we're very proud that our first ever chancellor was Australia's first female prime minister, Julian Gillard. And our Patreon is one of a handful of female presidents ever elected on the whole continent of Africa. And our executive team is majority incredible female leaders. Our founder and president is male, Matt Jacobson, but he's been extremely supportive of any kind of activity that we've been wanting to do, supporting women in leadership and higher education. And again, in celebration of Women's History Month, we're supporting our students and next generation of leadership. Okay, so we're 2 minutes in. I'm going to jump in and introduce Christine that is here with us today. I'm going to read because I want to make sure it's a very impressive introduction, so I don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to actually read from my notes. Christine Outram is Chief Product Officer of Revolution Prep and founder of Startup with Christine. She is a visionary entrepreneur, seasoned CEO, and expert in technology-driven business innovation. With over 20 years of experience in edtech, medtech, and big data, she has built and scaled multiple companies, leading them to successful acquisitions. Christine is the inventor of the electric bike, the Copenhagen Wheel, named one of Time magazine's top inventions, and has been a regular speaker at major conferences, including SXSW. She has deep expertise in fundraising, growth strategy, and commercialization, having raised millions of dollars to fuel high growth businesses. As the chief product officer of the academic coaching company Revolution Prep, the company that acquired her last startup, Christine leads product engineering and growth to help high school students unlock their full potential. She's also the creator of Startup with Christine, where she helps founders build high impact revenue generation business without the stress. Her latest venture includes a series of entrepreneurial guides tailored to different business archetypes, helping aspiring founders find the right path to success. Christine's leadership philosophy is rooted in strategic thinking, bold decision making, and the belief that inside every one of us is untapped brilliance waiting to be unlocked. I love that. Also, if you like, you can sign up for Christine's business growth strategy newsletter. I will put it in chat, but it is www.startupwithchristine.com. So again, I'm going to make sure to put that in chat. Christine, I would like to hand it over to you. Again, thank you for accepting our invitation, and I'll let you take over.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Hi, everyone. I can't see everyone out there, but I hope you're having a really good morning. I'm excited to speak today because honestly, it's been a really long journey for me to get into the C-suite. I started building businesses probably 20 years ago in my mid-20s, and now I'm in my mid-40s. And there's so many things that I wish that I knew coming into this kind of world that hopefully in a very short amount of time I can impart, and then we can have a fun conversation afterwards. Feel free to put questions in the chat if you want to put them there. I'll hopefully be keeping an eye on things as well. I do have some slides, so I will share those, and then we can get started. All right, I'm Australian, if you can't hear that, so a bit of an accent, but lived in the US, specifically in LA, for fairly long time now, almost 20 years. And so I have kind of hybrid accent going. But today we're going to be talking about earning respect, gaining influence, practical strategies for C-suite success. So many of you out there, I'm sure are innovative, and I'm sure have aspirations of either working in a large company, potentially at the C-suite, or building your own thing and kind of bringing innovation to life there. So I've done a bit of both. I've worked for kind of large scale companies, and I've worked for smaller startups as well. And here's really what I probably should have called this talk, but what I wish I knew about business before I was in business. Because each of us has a background and a past that we can draw on when we come into the C-suite, but there's actually some skills that you can layer on top in order to increase your influence, increase your success, bring bold ideas and things into the world. So a bit of background. Thank you, Caroline, for giving me the background as well. But I've had a pretty good run, you could say. Sold my last company, which is why I'm currently at Revolution Prep right now. Part of 2 other acquisitions, raised millions, named a whole bunch of things. And I remember one of the best moments of my career potentially was when I was raising money through equity crowdfunding, actually. And I had built this fundraising campaign, and I started to get pings about all these wires coming into my account. And the dollars just kind of kept going up. And I was like, oh, this is the feeling. People believe in the idea that I'm building. They really want to support me. And things are just growing. And it's kind of this incredible internal feeling of runaway growth and runaway, ability to then do what you want to be doing. But I got to tell you, it wasn't always like this. So on the outside, everybody looks impressive. Whether you're, I don't know, on TikTok or Instagram or right here in this talk, everybody looks impressive on the outside. It's a struggle, all of us, to get to where we want to be. So it wasn't always like this. I also remember about, little over 8 years ago now, I was building a company called Curio. Basically what Curio did was it took all of the real-time inventory from local stores around you, so small mom and pop shops and mostly fashion stores, and pulled it into one app so you could shop locally from small stores. Thought that was an amazing idea. Got together with somebody, we built this incredible prototype, we had all the real-time inventory, and crickets. Like we had this great launch, we even got a little press about it. Nobody really downloaded. And compared to the high of like having all this money coming into your account when you're raising money, this is a low. And the low is like, well, you can build something really awesome, you can have a really great idea, and it just doesn't always take off. And then it's a struggle. You're like, clawing your way back. People talk about this a lot. They talk about it as the founder's journey. So you have the tech crunch of initiation, that exciting idea, the wearing off novelty. I can tell you, I've spent a lot of time here, the trough of sorrow. And it can kind of get pretty hard. It's not something that is just for small businesses or startups either. I've seen and been part of 20-year-old businesses that maybe they've gone through this cycle once and they've had success, but then they need to build on top of that again. And they've also kind of landed themselves in the trough of sorrow. Repeatability of success in business is hard, but there's some techniques to kind of create some shortcuts and to kind of make things a little easier. So yes, I've spent a lot of time here, but I've also managed to wiggle my way out get to the promised land and get up the next part as well. But at the time, I was like, do I not have what it takes to be a CEO? You know, do I not have what it takes to be in the C-suite? Because it's pretty crushing to think that your idea might not work. The thing I think that I learned from all of this is what they tell you is build it and they will come. And really, what I learned is build it and they won't come. For the majority of businesses, there's some exceptions. Obviously, you know, you have your Facebooks or your I'm trying to think of another one, Dropbox, which you build it and people do start to come. Like it really hits on something. And in some ways, that's luck. A lot of people talk about how you have to have this combination of product, the thing you're building, and market, and have product market fit in order to have a business take off the ground. So it's not just what you're building and the idea you have, but it's also the fact that somebody wants it and needs it and is going to pay for it. And so, you know, some businesses just innately have that, the right time, right moment, and everything else. But I think for many founders and many businesses, even businesses that are 20 years old and going through the cycle again, they focus too much on the product first, the innovative idea, the exciting thing, the headline, that what it will look like in Wired or TechCrunch or wherever, without enough of the market. And so what I always encourage people to think about is not product market fit, but actually the other way around, market product fit. Because you can always, if you have a market of people, if you have a group of people who need something and want something, you can always build the right product for them. But when you start with building a product, you're then like left searching for a market, and marketing is expensive. It's much easier to have like people pulling something from you than trying to push something on someone. So I always in my business, this is probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, is that I no longer start with product. I no longer start with like this conception of the great idea I'm going to have. I start with market. I start with what do people need? Is there a group of them that's large enough, and can I go after them? So this really changes the approach. Sell it and they will come. You can always improve your product. So if you can get your sales technique down, if you can, and I'm not talking kind of used car salesman sales technique, you know, you don't need to be like schmarmy and you know, not authentic. But it's about how can you authentically sell and connect with people out in the world in order to find out what they want and then build what they want. And how can you do that not just for an individual person, but for a suite of people where it's going to be enough money coming into the business? Because you don't want to build something or sell something where, I mean, none of us want to earn $100 a year from something. You know, we do have bigger aspirations. You know, what we look at today in the business that I'm working in is, you know, you want to have at least $2 million coming into your run rate every year with any new idea. So we're kind of constantly looking at how big is the market, how many people, what does that look like? So sell it and they will come. And that's, if you take one thing away from this presentation, that's probably it. Selling skills are non-negotiable in the C-suite. I teach about this through Startup with Christine, so sign up for the newsletter. I talk about kind of both marketing and sales and entrepreneurship there. So that's something I do on the side. Got to say though, selling doesn't come naturally to everybody, and it did not come naturally for me.
I was gonna say this might sound a bit scary to some people, and they're like, "Whoa!" Especially if you know, because I've been in sales for so many years. Like as an extrovert, it's totally different than an introvert. So you could be super smart, you know, but not necessarily that comes to you. So I'm really glad that you're talking about that.
Yeah, let's open that one up a bit, because despite my, you know, happy persona here on screen, I'm actually very much an introvert. I'm capable of being extroverted when, you know, I'm here talking to you all, but my preferred kind of mode is a little more introverted. And then layer onto that the fact that I grew up in a household that didn't really kind of value sales and selling. You know, it wasn't kind of a bad thing, but it also, you know, my parents valued pursuits that were a little more heads down and you know, a little less extroverted. And I really didn't know anything about sales, and I really did buy into this idea that if I just, you know, put my head down and worked really hard and built an amazing product, then the sales part would take care of itself, and it didn't. And layer onto that the fact that I also, like many women actually have this, men as well, but often women have a kind of inbuilt desire to people please as well. And people pleasing can get in the way of being good at sales, because instead of kind of really thinking about how both parties can come together in order to get the thing that they both need, you may find yourself just deferring or listening to the other party in an effort to please them. And, kind of one of those ingrained things. So a lot of unlearning that I personally had to do around selling, around my belief in my ability to sell, around what selling was. You can't see, but behind me in this blurry vision back here is a bookshelf, and there's literally like 5 or 6 books on sales that I read in an effort to try and understand how to actually do this, how to unlock, crack the code, as it were. So I'm just going to give you some teasers today about selling and about some techniques that you can use. And then we're going to have some Q&A if anybody's interested in that, and a little background. But I want to get practical. I'm a very practical person when I teach as well. I could talk to you about kind of the high level strategy, but I like to give super practical examples because I think that comes to life. So that's what this next part is going to be about. Let's get practical about C-suite and selling and influence. 3 things: how to capture attention, how to get buy-in for a new idea, and then how to get what you need. So with these 3 things, and kind of unpack these in a number of ways, that then helps to build influence and respect, seat at the table, bigger bonus, more resources, more impact, more everything. Probably something that's not here that we should probably mention is, and I'm going to give you another practical example here too. I work with this amazing project manager, and she's really ready to kind of increase her title and also her pay. But interestingly enough, she never came to me, and I had to go to her. And most bosses don't do this, right? Like, most bosses are not going to come to you to give you the raise. And when I first started my career, I thought they would, and they didn't. So I actually went to her. I'm like, look, I'm going to teach you something. You need to come to me, and you need to tell me about this. And so, and as opposed to, I have an engineer that I work with who, he's on it. Like, he's there asking 3 months in advance of his 1-year date, whether we can set up a meeting and, talk about his progress and everything else. So I think that's the first thing, is just, putting your hand up and not expecting other people to be thinking about you all the time, but always to be bringing that to the table in a way that makes it both exciting for the person you're talking to and easy for them to say yes, which is how to get buy-in for a new idea. Okay, so let's start with the first thing: how to capture attention. Why is this important? Well, I don't know if you've ever received an email like this. This is a real email I received. And there's nothing wrong with this email, except that my eyes kind of get glazed over, and I had to kind of force myself to really read into it, and get the information, and also start really understand what it was that this person wanted from me personally by sending me this email. Was it just an FYI? Was there an action item in here? What was happening? A lot of the time when you're busy and particularly when you're dealing with people in the C-suite, you got to cut to the chase, and you got to get to the why does this matter and what do you want me to do about it? Shorthand is your friend in the C-suite. I use bullet points so often and just try and boil things down into something small. You can always unpack later. You can always unpack additional questions when you need to. But turning yourself from, hey, everybody wants to know what I'm talking about, to, oh, what is the one thing I want someone to do, becomes an important skill. So attention is greater than information in many, many cases. This is the opposite of, I work with a lot of educators right now, and a lot of educators really focus on how to get deep into knowledge, which is their job, and it's their job to help us think critically and strategically and to, round out what we're doing. Not the same in fast-moving C-suite businesses. So we have this is kind of the format that I use. Hi, first name. I never address everybody. I never be like, hi, all. I'll be like, hi, first name, the person I want to do the thing that I want them to do. Usually sentence context, what I need them to do after reading. And I put that at the very top of the email rather than the bottom of the email. Then some reasons why, what they get in return. So, you know, it's not always this structure, but you can see it kind of come to life. Hi, first name, good news, you're getting access to your academic benefits today. All you need to do is click the link below. See how I asked them to do the thing at the very, very top of the email. It actually gets action. And part of being in the C-suite is about getting momentum, getting people to kind of take the action that you want to take. And it's surprising when you ask people to do things, how many people do things. And so this is just a way to get that done.
I think one thing.
Go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting. Just one thing that it reminds you here with what you're saying is people don't read. Assume people don't read. Just look at yourself. How many emails do you get in your inbox? You read the first line and the rest is just a blur.
Yes, exactly. And I'm one of those, I mean, there's two types of people in the world. There's inbox zero people and there's non-inbox zero people. I'm a non-inbox zero person, which really, really frustrates people, I think. But I will read, and often I'll read the snippet. And if it's not addressed to me, if it's not needed, if it's not relevant, then I can always find it later and I can come back to it. So, yeah, and this goes for emails. It goes for the internet. People don't read on the internet either. You have to kind of guide them through. There's some exceptions. Honestly, I have seen some really good newsletters recently, which are less this format and are more storytelling. But those have a certain technique. Like often you get a multi-part newsletter that is about building up to a story and it's encouraging you to read. And the action they want you to take is to read the next chapter the next day in the next email. And so it is kind of drawing you in. So it still has a purpose. The other thing I ask always with emails, with websites, with anything that I'm doing or that my team is doing is what is the primary thing you want someone to do? What is the primary thing you want them to understand? And then what do you want them to feel? And if you nail those three things every time, particularly with the primary thing you want them to do at the very top, then you know you learn to kind of sell through your email or through your techniques. I'm going to pause for a second. I don't know. I feel like I saw some questions or some like little indications. Are there any questions to answer right now?
There's a question here. I have a question about your product or your service. Is it better to start with a niche or a wider target from the start?
Oh, what an awesome question. This completely depends on what type of lifestyle you want and what type of person you are. So if you're going after VC big money and it's not even that you're going after VC or big money. If your dream is to run 1,000-person company and maybe stand at the New York Stock Exchange one day and ring that bell and, you know, have that, I am, you know, part of a huge company, then you got to go for huge idea. You've got to go for huge market. You've got to go for something that really is, you know, much larger and could have a much larger impact. That's not the only type of business. And I think sometimes we fall into the trap of thinking it's the only type of business because that's what everybody talks about and what we all think about in entrepreneurship. The other type of business, which is actually more exciting to me these days, is I want a lifestyle business in many ways. I want a business that I can grow, that is bringing in money consistently every year. But I also don't feel the need anymore to run a 100-person team, to, you know, have that kind of multi-strategy global presence. And for that type of business, starting with a niche and just really kind of slowly working your niche and working it up can be extremely, extremely fulfilling. And yes, it might be a little slower because you're not taking outside capital, but you're kind of building the business that you want from a kind of small business sense. So I think it comes back to you. But I'd be happy to kind of dig into that a little further. I think it's a great question. All of these I should probably write newsletters about, digging a little further. Anything else before we go on?
Thank you. No, we can continue going.
All right. Let's look at a different context about how attention is greater than information. So I do a lot of experiments in the work that I do. Running a product team. For those who don't know what product is, it's essentially designing the experiences that customers will have with your website, your apps, your anything that, mostly it's kind of product and engineering working together to decide what we're going to build in what timeline, how we're going to launch it, and then the UX, UI kind of part of it as well, so the design of it as well. But with that, I've built a lot of websites in my life, and we're gonna play a fun game. I can't see the answers, so Carol's gonna help me out here. But I'm gonna ask you, we were redesigning the landing page of our website. This is the original. I used to work for this company called Dog Vacay. They sold to Rover, and this was the original page. And obviously, a website in its best iteration is going to be very hardworking. It's going to get more business for you at the bottom line. So we were redesigning our website, and this is our original. And then we have a few different versions that we tested. And in your mind, I'm going to ask you, you're going to think to yourself, which version do you think did the best? So was it the original? Was it option 1? Find the perfect pet sitter near you. Option 2, with the logos at the bottom, so building trust. Or option 3. No logos, no header.
You can put it in the chat if you think it's 1, 2, or 3. Was it 3? Yeah.
So we have original, or it could be the original too, because original is the baseline. Option 1, cozy home, loving sitter. Option 2, or option 3. Any guesses? Smattering of 2s and 3s usually, maybe. What do we got?
Yeah, I think we got mostly 2. Don't be shy.
All right, well, we're going to continue. Turns out it is 3. So 3, what we call the hyperfocus. And it comes back to this idea that attention is greater than information. If you, on a landing page, on a website, if you strip out any other links, any other things that the person can do, except the one thing that you want them to do that is important to your business, you will get way higher conversion, you'll get way higher click-through, you'll get way higher people taking action. So what you see here in this table is the columns are the steps that people take in order for us to get them through to the goal. So they're visiting, they view a search, they view a profile, they view checkout, they send an action, and then they actually check out. But you'll see the bottom had incredible lift overall on actually people booking a dog sitter. Versus the others also had lift compared to the original, but just not quite as much. So again, stripping away that information can actually get people to take action, which is what you want, which is the takeaway. Attention is greater than information and always leads to more action. And you can kind of apply that wherever you want in the C-suite. Okay, let's go next. How to get buy-in for a new idea. So this is partly what your job is as a C-suite person, is you will likely come together in, I don't know, they're called a number of things, but executive leadership team meetings, or there'll be board meetings. There'll be things where you need to present a new idea and need to get buy-in for it. I tend to think it's kind of easy when you think about it like this. Buy-in at the C-suite, or in the C-suite, is easy. Focus on either saving money or making money. This is not always true for nonprofits, obviously, but for any company that is profit-driven. This goes for sales in general, in B2B sales, if you're a B2B company. You're either going to save someone money or you're going to make someone money. And your idea needs to demonstrate one of those. So it also comes back to our first point of, hey, you can have a great idea and put it out there, and that's your product piece of it. But what's your market piece? And the market piece is how much desire do you have? How much are they going to pay you? What does this generate in terms of income? The other thing I like to say is, when in doubt, model it out. I use spreadsheets a lot. And this is a story actually of kind of how I sold the business. So if you've ever sold a business, if you've ever looked into getting acquired, firstly, the disappointing part is it takes 6 to 12 months to sell your business. It's a long process. And partly it's long because you have to build trust and plant seeds and sell your company over time with the other company. It's rare that they'll be like, great, yeah, let's buy you today, get the paperwork done. They want to know who you are, that you think usually you're going to come and join the company. So they need to know that you're going to add value in that way. And so it's a slow process. So one of the things that I did when I was selling every day to Revolution Prep is in our conversations, I said to the CEO, look, I have product skills, but actually I'm seeing some other opportunities. And I want to show you what those look like. So I put together a little spreadsheet, and I knew that obviously money, making money is important for businesses. This is the value that I was going to bring. How can I increase the bottom line? And I said to him, my goal is to increase revenue by greater than 2 million per quarter in 8 months. I see this as using a strategy that has the highest likelihood to win with the lowest operating costs and overhead. Once it's optimized, then moving to the next easiest strategy. And then across the bottom of this spreadsheet, I had all the strategies. So one was increased conversion, one was through email, through targeted traffic, through abandoned cart, all the ideas that I had. I just had like a ton of ideas. I just put them all down on paper. And then for each of these tabs, I did a very back of the envelope modeling of how I could optimize what we call the funnel in product, but the steps from someone. In this case, it was abandoned cart. So I noticed that when somebody added something to the cart in their website, they didn't have any follow-up emails to say, hey, if you've got something in your cart, maybe you want to check out. And I had also done some research to know that if you have those emails, it can increase your close rate by 30%. So I built out this little funnel, and I was like, hey, if you get 20,000 people to your website and 7% of them get to start the cart, and 1,400 of them give you an email and 3% buy, but then you follow up with the abandoned cart email, how much extra revenue will that kind of bring to you? So without going through kind of all the details, this is the type of thing that I did. And then I looked at targeted traffic. I did something similar, and came out with this great, 1.9 million per quarter that we could get in the business. Everybody knows in the C-suite that spreadsheets can be made to say anything. And, if I was a CEO looking at this, if somebody came to me, I'd be like, great, yeah, sure, maybe we could get all of that. But that's less important, though, than me demonstrating that I know how to think this way. And I know how to focus on making money or saving money, because that's what you need at the C-suite level. Your eyes have to be on that, how to improve the business, especially with the current business that I'm in, which is owned by private equity. So that is the major driver as well. And then because I knew that people looking at this is too much information, the last thing that I did is I put together I put it on 1.5 speed, but an 8-minute video that I could just send to the CEO where I got to walk through it. And I didn't have to walk through it in front of him, which meant that my inner introvert was happy. But I use this is a tool called Loom. You could use Zoom, you could use Loom, you could use Fathom, you could use all these other things, but it allows me to just screen record and talk over the top. So, and it's useful for, hey, I just want to walk through this idea with you, very high level. I'm having some thoughts about how we can make more money for the business. Modeled it out a bit. Here's this. If you want to see the details, please, I'll follow up. But here's how I think we can work together. And it worked incredibly well, because not only did he feel like I had the right interests at heart, he also then forwarded this to the board to be like, hey, here's how she thinks, here's what she does. And I didn't have to do lengthy presentations. I was just able to send off this 8 to 12-minute video to do that. So yeah, when in doubt, model it out. And then if you're shy, put it in a video and send it off. Making money, saving money is usually how you pitch an idea. So you'll notice this is actually something else. I work with a lot of founders who are raising money. And when they first come to me with their pitch deck, about 80% of that presentation is usually about their product, and about 20% of it's usually about the business and the go-to-market. I tell them always to switch that. I'm like, you want to be talking about 20% the thing you're building and 80% the opportunity, the money, what's coming in, and switching that ratio aligns the interests of the investor with the presentation that you're giving. So always thinking about who that person is.
Just because I think here's just everyday life, it's like, what's in it for me, right? So when you're
100%.
prepping, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. What's in it for me? And, it all adds up, right? It's like short attention spans. What's in it for me? In fact, thank you for that nice segue. We're going to cover that right here. With that rogue capital and the G right there. Okay. So the other thing that happens in the C-suite is that then you have to fight for resources. Things are limited. Often kind of things I think about are how will I get more engineers on my team? How am I going to get more, not just buy-in, but more things to ensure that I can actually deliver on ideas that have been brought in. And so always thinking through how to interact with different members of the C-suite as well, which comes to the segue. People don't buy when they understand you, they buy when they feel understood. So what do people want? What are they, what are their interests? This probably, anyone who's been in sales a long time will spend time at the start of a conversation or through a series of conversation understanding the person, what their motivations are, what they need, where the gaps are, what their problems are. And then once we understand who they are, then the job of thinking, oh, cool, well, if they need this, then, and I have this, the job of kind of stitching that together into a single conversation or a pitch becomes a lot easier. So what I could have done when I needed more engineers is say, hey, we need more engineers. If you want me to finish this work, you better give me more engineers. Okay, sure. But what I did is I said to our CFO, I actually generated a strategy that would be a win-win for him because I knew that he was keeping an eye on all of the bottom line. Again, save money, make money. I was like, hey, I have a strategy for cutting our server costs for 10K per month. If I can do this over the next 3 months, can I hire 2 more offshore engineers? It'll be cost neutral. It's just like it's a complete no-brainer, right? Because he's like, yeah, sure, cost neutral. And, you're also looking after the business by saving server costs. Perfect. So I'm always thinking about, how to understand them and their motivations, and then how we can work together. Because it isn't just a zero-sum game. Like for anybody who's read the book Getting to Yes, you'll know that it's multiple parties sometimes coming together to get to one answer. But if you could make it easy for people to say yes, the other book that I love right now is, I think it's Alex Bukowski. Oh, I'm going to have to send it afterwards. But it's about crafting $1 million offers that people would feel stupid saying no to. And so that's actually, it's a quick read, easy read, but it's a great book to get started on these things too.
You don't remember the name of it?
I will let you know.
Okay.
Oh gosh, yes. But I think the book is called How to Craft $1 Million Offers That People Would Feel Stupid Saying No to. I'm pretty sure that's the book. Yeah. Let's look at a slightly different context. For people don't buy from you when you understand them, they buy when they feel understood. This is, again, let's go back to a website. So this is one of the websites that we're working on right now. This is Revolution Prep. This is a typical page on the website, and our programs. Our skilled faculty create a personalized curriculum for your student and spends time on the things that drive outcomes the fastest and save time on anything your student doesn't need. The result, student parents, teachers, and schools experience better, less stress. Okay, there's nothing like inherently wrong with that copy, but it doesn't actually compel me to take action because it's actually all about the company. And it's not at all about the parent or the student or the person who's on the page. So one recent thing that I did at the company was institute this. We did a little quiz instead. Is your child getting the right support? And if I'm a parent, it invites curiosity, but it also feels very addressed to me. Find out in 4 minutes. Great. Select your primary concern and take the quiz. So we created this little quiz that helped people determine not only where their gaps were, it actually helped us then determine how to speak to them about their gaps. So it's kind of a little very quick thing to kind of start to understand them at a deeper level. And then it had a results page, which we're like, oh, well, given your things that you've already told us, students like Lisa work with an executive function coach 1 time a week, and then gave them an offer of a $39 2-session trial. And it's kind of amazing how if you start with understanding, then you can give people an easy offer that is tailored to what you've just learned about them. And then you can upsell them afterwards. And what I mean by this is, we understood people through the quiz. The easy offer is get your first 2 sessions for $39. And the upsell, what we're seeing is our average order value is around $1,500. And we have 54% of those people who are buying trials upselling themselves at $1,500. In sales, people will rarely bite for the big thing first. It's really hard to get someone who's never heard of you, doesn't really know your values, never worked with you, to spend potentially $1,500 immediately, unless like it's complete product market fit. They're like, oh, I need that in my life. It's going to be, really good. And I would say this on a website. It's much easier on the phone. On the phone when you're talking through, and you can answer somebody's questions in real time. You can handle somebody's objections and see what they really need. Much easier to go straight to that 1,500. But we wanted to create a website funnel that kind of helped people understand the value with those 2 sessions for $39. Then our tutors could do the amazing work that they do to show that kind of that you should work with us some more. So that's that. This is actually, I think, the last slide of my presentation. And if you'd like to be part of the newsletter, I know that Caroline's already put it in the chat as well. But I talk a lot about these little strategies, little ideas each week, just once a week. And yeah, thank you for having me, and happy to open it up to any questions.
Thank you so much. So while we're waiting for people to put their questions in the chat, so highlight things that stood out for me. Authenticity is what you said, that I think, especially in the world that we're living in with all the social media, everything that's going around, all the noise that we hear and we see all day, every day, whether we like it or not. I think one thing that stands out is authenticity, that for some reason, somehow we're very sensitive to it, and we know it when something is genuine and something is not. I love that you said that. Unlearning was another thing that stood out, because it's always about learning and adapting new things, and but unlearning, especially for I know we're talking about Women's History Month and this and that, but there's specific things that is a trademark. Like you say, likability, like I want to make sure that I'm being liked, or imposter syndrome, for example. Like these are certain things that's really important to unlearn. So I love that you said that, to pay more attention to that. Asking, I put in the chat, there's a book called Women Don't Ask. That's also very important for women and men, because it happens more often than not. We're like, well, how would you not know? And we're all so busy in our everyday life with everything. It's like, if you don't ask, it's not going to happen, whether it's in conversation, in your personal life as well, professional, personal life, in email, over the phone, when you're having conversation with your own friends. Be very mindful of asking for what is needed, what you want. What's the worst? If you don't ask, you never know.
This also took me a long time to learn. Like, as someone who's shy and in social situations can often feel a bit awkward, I just wouldn't ask. I would just hope someone would suggest, and that can be,
yes,
something to just train yourself. I had a roommate in Sydney years and years ago who was extremely good at connecting with people, and just had a very large group of friends and social circle. And I was like, how do you do it? And she's like, it's not rocket science. I'm like, yeah, but tell me exactly, how do you do it? She said, well, when I go to the coffee shop, I just introduce myself and then I ask their name, and that's all I do. And then the next time I come back and I use their name and I ask them another question. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. All right, I guess. And, that kind of started my journey on just incrementally pushing myself out there a bit more. But yeah.
Baby steps. And then one more thing that you mentioned was follow-up, which again is very important. It doesn't matter if you're doing small sales, big sales, if it's something that, again, these are things that you can apply in your personal and professional life. follow-up is something that you mentioned
Mm.
that was very important. Two more things that stood out for me. Attention is more important than information. Once you capture their attention, you can always go back and give them the information that's needed, depending on, if it's bite-sized or more that
Yeah.
they need.
And this, I mean, we should add, this isn't anything new. Newspapers, old school newspapers, and articles on the internet all use this technique, right? They have what they call the topic sentence, which is the first sentence in the article, which is designed to capture your attention to keep you reading. And then they unpack all of the details, and then they conclude at the end with what, the takeaways. And I mean, I'm sure journalism has moved on since then as well. But I remember learning about that, and it's kind of the same structure, right? It's the same thing. Like, how do you capture someone's attention? They will ask you more questions to dive into what they're interested in, and then you can unpack more, you can give more information, you can kind of come together. I should also say it's very different from the way we communicate. This is also an American style of communication. In Australia, in England, or kind of various parts of the world, you'll actually have a different style. You won't give the headline in the 2 seconds, first of all. You will build up the idea. You will kind of have a slower approach, and it changes based on industries too. Entrepreneurs tend to be more, hey, here's the headline, here's what I need. And somebody in, I don't know, a research facility or a lab or somewhere else might have a kind of slower, different approach to communication. But I guess it's about tailoring your communication
Yeah.
based on your situation too.
Audience, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's in it for me? That was another big thing that people are, whether they're investors or it's your client, customer, what's in it for me? So two questions. One is, Christine, you talk about how selling is a number one skill for C-suite, and we're, talking more and more about that. What's one mindset shift that helped you get more comfortable with it? Because again, and I love that question being asked from you, because you're reiterating that you're an introvert and it didn't come naturally to you. So for people that are in that boat and they're not the type to just go to that, to brace stuff and ask for what do you have to say to that, or what's your solution?
I mean, I think it's just incremental. Thinking to yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Like, and usually it's nothing, right? Like, if I ask for something, what's the worst that could happen? They say no. Okay. I think the other part of it, though, is a lot of us get stuck in not knowing what to ask. Like, what do I want? What to ask? And so a mindset shift that I have and get stuck in all the ideas and like, well, what if I asked it this way or this way, and try to optimize everything? And I used to get stuck there a lot too. And I remember my brother said to me, he's like, look, you just gotta put a stake in the sand and move towards that stake as fast as possible. And maybe you're gonna shift that stake in the sand at one point, like as you discover more information, but you gotta put something down. And so I also, and I'm not always that good at this, but I also try to practice, okay, I have a number of ideas, I have a number of things. Let me just pick the one, pick one of them, pick one thing that I want to do. And then have that confidence to think, well, what's the worst that's going to happen if I try and present this, do this, ask for this, and have that mindset shift as well. So not trying to optimize, okay, stuck in optimization is probably a mindset shift that I had to learn.
Thank you. And then the second one, so you've clearly learned a lot from trial and error, during your journey. If someone's earlier in their journey, what's the first practical step they can take to build influence internally?
It's a great question. I think this kind of idea of, and I'll say it kind of in a funny way, but less talky, more makey. Or less talk, more make. I know that, when I came to the US and I was studying, we used to have a saying called like, a prototype's worth more than a PowerPoint. And if you can bring something to life And if you can not just talk about it, but demonstrate it in whatever way you can, whether that's, you know, an 8-minute Loom video taking someone through a spreadsheet, or, you know, whatever medium suits you. You know, if you're creative, then maybe it's building a little prototype. If you're numbers based, maybe it's, you know, spreadsheets. If you just like Word docs, great, you know, put something down, but less just kind of talking about it and more, how can you start to think about bringing it to life? I think that's probably what I'd say. You're just starting out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I just want to see if there are any other questions. I saw a comment here in the chat that someone asked about, when you were going through the slides, reiterate the last point regarding pitch deck 80/20.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know. Yeah.
I can reiterate that. Um, so pitch decks, for those who have ever raised money as a business or who've ever pitched an idea, you know, a deck is obviously the presentation you use to do that. And there's a structure. In fact, actually, if you sign up on my website, you'll get my structure for my pitch deck. But most people spend around 80% of their presentation talking about their product or their great idea. They're like, here's my great idea, look at my great idea, here's how it works, let me show you some more screens. The idea is great, here's the app. And they, you know, start to talk about the why they got to the idea and the idea. And then the very back half of their presentation, those last 20% of slides, and usually there'd be like, what, 10 to 15 slides. So last kind of maybe 2-3 slides at the end, they talk about the business and they say, so, hey, give me some money. And, you know, I think this is going to be huge. Or they have a Tam Samsung slide, right? And they're like, hey, here's the market, here's how big it's going to be. Great, now give me some money. But when you think about who your audience is with investing, yes, they care about the what, but they more care about the how big is this going to be. And so I often, when I work with founders, tell them, you want about 2 to 3 slides at the beginning that just very quickly covers what you're building. And then you want to spend 80% of your slides unpacking the model. When in doubt, model it out. Like the model, how is this going to be big? What are your assumptions? What have you kind of figured out already? What hasn't worked? What has worked? Where you see the greatest potential for growth? How is it going to grow the go-to-market? You know, that side of things, I think is where I encourage people to spend more time, and that usually then aligns with the investors' incentives and business side of it.
Thank you. We have one more question on authenticity and honesty. How will that be translated into CEO and large companies out there lying? Or let me rephrase. I'm
Yeah.
just reading her. Or let me rephrase. Stating not so accurate information in social media about their products, and there are some followers getting amazed about it when it is not even close to being launched,
Oh,
not
yeah.
produced. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm guessing this happens sometimes when people raise money, and it's like things that are not out there. I mean, you have to operate with honesty and integrity, and not everybody does. I think, you know, even when we were raising money, we both legally and also from ethically, you know, we needed to put out there that, hey, like, you know, this is investing's a risk. You know, it may not pan out. We're going to work as hard as we can to make it work, but it may not happen. But there's a lot of people out there who try and just, you know, sell you based on all the selling techniques. I think it also comes down to who you're working with and where you want to work as well. I mean, it's not always a possibility. You know, sometimes you don't have the luxury of choice when it comes to who you want to work with, but you can usually sense when somebody's a good person is doing
It's
things.
also short-lived, don't you think? Because you can only do that for so long, especially in this day and age, until, you know, it's proven otherwise. It's short-lived. Okay, it might work for, I don't know, X number of weeks or months, but then what?
Yeah, look at Elizabeth Holmes. Or look at
Oh, I love that example. Yeah.
yeah. And she's not the only one, obviously. You know, we have Sam Bankman-Fried, we have WeWork, we have a lot of examples, not to just, you know, call out the only
Yeah.
female example I can think of. But yeah, there's a lot of examples. It does hurt people.
Yeah, it's short-lived.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we have 5 more minutes. I'm just mindful of time. This has been wonderful. It's really great. And again, I love that what you covered today, you can apply to, you know, it doesn't matter how big or small the businesses that you're in or you're trying to build, as well as your personal life, because I think especially now we're just, you know, we talk about work-life balance and how it's intertwined. We'll definitely share the recording and Christine's links after the session. So if you have been attending or you've been registered, you received the recording. And also, if you are interested in learning more about Ducere and the great work that we're doing and existing programs and how we can help leaders overcome barriers to career progression. Of course, I'm also happy to connect at any time. We have my QR code, you have Christine's QR code. I had a question, Christine, if someone wants to get in contact with you, does this just goes to your newsletter?
It does, yeah, but I mean, it's very easy. Christine at startupwithchristine.com. We'll get to me too.
Okay,
So,
and we'll
yeah.
get to you too. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful. Thank you again for accepting our invite and for everybody who joined. Hope you're having a wonderful
For
rest of your
inviting me.
day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Pleasure. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
Take care.